What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning into Morning Mug again here. This is your weekly roundup. Get you guys ready for the bell at 9:30 this morning. Just gonna have a look at some watch lists, see what happened on the last day of trading last week, see if there's any news we should update ourselves with, pick our stocks to have an eye on. Again, not financial advice, not trading advice, just what I'm gonna be watching, just sharing my experience. So let's hop on over to the Psychedelics watch list we've built on Yahoo Finance. As of close on Friday, Field Trip trading on the Canadian Securities Exchange was up the most, 2.18%. And we got Revive Therapeutics at the bottom, down just under 10%. It was a mostly red day for the psychedelic sector. I think a lot of people were anticipating a little more volume last week. Our recent average volumes look like they've been broken on some of these stocks here. Some of them are still lower though, so that would explain most of the reason why there wasn't any upward trending going on with the stocks there. And since MindMed was our mug stock last week, let's do a little recap here. Obviously the charts aren't looking as hot as we would have hoped. We did break out of that downward trend that had started from the sell-off over in mid-December. That was when we hit those highs of over $6 Canadian. Trading in between this trading range of $3.45 and roughly $4.20 Canadian. We are still above the simple moving average 180 day. That'll be this purple one here. Pardon the crosshair, it's a little funky. These purple ones are those resistances, and this was just an intraday support that I had been watching. So I'm going to clear that to clear up some space here. So could be getting that bounce off the 180 day MA. We'll see about that. So in these situations, considering I am long on the stock, I do believe in the stock long term, and we'll get into that quickly. This is one of those times where you're just averaging down, bringing down your average cost if you do have a higher cost, or if you are confident enough in the stock as I am to be adding with your cost lower. My cost is just under $2 right now in one account, so I might be adding to that account. Otherwise, I'll just be trying to make sure I'm ready for the uplisting and be in this stock and committed as much as I am willing to, risk reward wise. And that's about it. We can just look at their investor deck. Nothing's changed. Everything's still the same. It's nothing to worry about in the fundamental side. So here are just a couple notes I wrote down. The NASDAQ uplisting will happen, in my opinion, whether it happens in the next 2 weeks, whether it happens Monday, whether it happens in 3 months, it'll happen. My price target when that does happen for the end of the year and looking into 2022 would be $12 to $15 Canadian. And this is irrelevant to the NASDAQ uplisting. Project Layla news, which is their 18MC opioid withdrawal drug. That news, along with Project Lucy news, that's the LSD assisted therapy. That's the LSD assisted therapy for anxiety. With that news, the more IND filings that they're looking into, as well as phase 1 success with the LSD assisted therapy for ADHD, that alone will get this stock to that $12 or $15 Canadian target, in my opinion. You can think of the uplisting as a wedge. The longer the wedge, the bigger the pop. So let's go into that a little bit here. Here's where we're at pretty much right now. If you could imagine, this is the wedge that we were just looking at on the actual chart. This is that run up, the pre-anticipatory run up to the NASDAQ uplisting that happened in December. People were getting pretty hyped, and that was pretty much crashed down by that offering at 440. This is that ascending wedge, slightly descending wedge, I should probably have written. It is definitely still bullish, the wedge, regardless of whether it's unless it's very much pointing downwards, the wedge is definitely a bullish trend. The longer it goes, the bigger the pop tends to be the technical result. Again, this is not trading advice, this is not financial advice, this is just some of the patterns that people have passed along to me in my learnings, and something I'm just watching myself, keeping an eye on. This is just something to this is just a way to analyze the stock in the way it's going right now. So if the NASDAQ happens very soon, NASDAQ uplisting happens very soon, I think we'll see a bigger push up past some of these levels here, obviously, up into the maybe even $10 Canadian here. But I think that will cause an even bigger sell-off, potentially even back to where we are right now, until more news along the actual fundamental side of the company does come around. So while the NASDAQ uplisting could be very good, in the long term of the stock, it might not be the best thing. you might see crazy sell-offs and more volatility, and forcing some less than strong hands that are long on the stock to sell just to protect their money a bit, which, you know, in turn forces the price down a little bit further. Or we could have the situation where the NASDAQ takes about 2 to 3 months. Over that 2 to 3 months, at any point in time, that's where this little yellow line starts. It's arbitrary. I have no prediction for this, but the price will eventually break this trend here, as the sentiment will change if the NASDAQ uplisting is taking longer than normal. Some news will probably make it bounce up, but once that NASDAQ uplisting happens after some of their fundamental news happens, that can only send the stock price upwards. I think with everything coming together in that way, instead of being in a staggered fashion where the NASDAQ uplisting happens soon and then news and then more news and then more news, that's going to be more steady. I think if the NASDAQ uplisting takes a little bit longer and we get some news on the fundamental side first, this wedge that we're seeing here could pop. Could watch this thing ride up along this support once it breaks the trend and see it steadily rise, or we could see it go parabolic again, which is pretty hard to predict, but this thing already has gone parabolic multiple times, so that's most of the reason why some of these crazier day traders have been attracted to it, and we have seen some of these bigger sell-offs and more positions that have been short and have thus forced the price down a little bit more. Moving over to Bitcoin, we are seeing a sell-off currently in Bitcoin. If we want to just open up a 5-day, 5-minute chart here, you can see that we broke the VWAP around 4 a.m. Eastern, and since then we've been trading downward. Looks like it might have found a bottom around 36,000 USD. Now, if you do go and look back at previous runs of Bitcoin, it does have big 10 to 20% even more shaves that do happen along the run-up, so I wouldn't be too worried about this thing turning around. We are getting a bit of that U-shaped top right here, but again, that could all just be enveloped in the little sell-offs that have happened here. You know what, let's, instead of just saying it, let's pop that portion up right here. This day right here was about a 10% shave off of the price from top to bottom. So I wouldn't be worried about this thing turning around just yet, and with that said, let's switch on over to our watch list that we have. On a percent change basis, we got Hut leading the way. That was our call out last week. Finished the day 60% up on Friday, just insane. At about a third of the value of Riot, while mining more, having more Bitcoin in their treasury, and now opening up more avenues to fiat currency revenue. That way they can cover some of their debts here. So I still am very bullish on Hut. I still think they're very undervalued. So that's kind of all we wanted to touch on here. One other quick note here on the 3-month chart. The pullbacks here have been consistently using the 7-day exponential moving average, which is the top one, on bullish days, and consistently pulling back to the 25 or the 12 here on light pullbacks. So we're looking at potentially moving down to 35,000 American before this thing turns back around. So that's the key level that I've kind of highlighted for this pullback before we move up into the next leg for Bitcoin. So there, I've gone ahead and made this chart and just shown some of the prices that we were trading at around 35K Bitcoin, and now 41K, or as of the end of day January 8th was 41. So we've seen 100% increase in Hut, we've seen 30 to 40 increase in Riot, Mara has gone up 80 to 100%, BTBT has actually gone down. Hive's only gone up 30 to 40%. Hive's another Bitcoin miner here in Canada, and Bitfarm's another Canadian Bitcoin miner, has gone up 75 to 85%. So I don't have as much of a thesis on these two stocks here, on Hive and Bitfarm, but there are definitely some that are on my watch list now. I'm mostly going to be focusing on Hut, so that's these two here. Riot, I'm still thinking is a good company. Mara still has a great position in Bitcoin in their treasury. BT, I'm gonna stay away from. It's been downward trending while Bitcoin has gone up. Hive and Bitfarm, I'm gonna stay out of myself because I have not done enough due diligence. But if Bitcoin really sees a low and is clearly going to be turning around, and I need to diversify a bit and still have that exposure to Bitcoin, these are probably going to be my options here because they're on the Canadian side. So it's the next morning here, roughly 8 a.m. Eastern. Bitcoin went on a nice little run downwards here, bottoming out at roughly 33,000 American. I do believe it got lower than that. I think we did see some 31,000s there. This is the 3-month 1-day chart, so sometimes those numbers get a little mixed up. Broke the 7-day exponential moving average, broke the 12-day exponential moving average. We still have the 25-day, which is roughly 30,000 down there. Let's hope it doesn't test that. I think it could. But with all things considered, this leg up has definitely given the market, the Bitcoin market that is, a little more strength. So some of these miners here, I don't think we'll see as much of a shave off in the morning gap down here, which is inevitable almost with this kind of movement in Bitcoin. A lot of this move downwards is because of miners getting a little bit of coins off of their treasuries here, making a bit of money off of the run up. So it's not overly surprising to see it move down like this, and it is Bitcoin after all. Everyone knows Bitcoin can move quite wildly. Hopefully this increase in volume is going to lead to some strength here, and we're going to see it stay above the 30,000 range. That'd be great. Don't be surprised if it does push back. All this is going to mean is better opportunities for us to add to our positions here and greater margins for us in the long run. So it's definitely not something to be too upset about. That just about does it for the roundup this week. I'm going to be looking to add to some of my Bitcoin mining positions, as it looks like they're going to be lower this morning. Long on those. Still long on MindMed. This is the Frankfurt exchange here, currently trading right now at 260 euros. Looks like a gap down from Friday's highs, but still a green day, so a chance to add. Doesn't always correlate directly. Just a good little indicator of how other markets are taking to MindMed today. But with all that said, no opinions here expressed by Morning Mug are financial advice or trading advice. Be sure to make any decisions based on your own volition, your own due diligence, and don't take advice from someone on the internet. If I earn the like, or if I earn the subscription, be sure to drop those on your way out. If not, leave a comment and get going. Good luck this week, and safe travels.